This episode is sponsored by Roundel. Start the new year with media plans built with Roundel, Target's retail media business. Roundel connects brands with 165 million plus Target guests through data-driven strategies and tailored partnerships that deliver measurable results. Whether you're elevating your brand, expanding reach, or driving growth, Roundel helps your message show up in moments of discovery and joy. Because at Roundel, joy is good for business. Learn more at roundel.com.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. In recent years, several apps have emerged that allow for parents to track and monitor their children's whereabouts and check up on their safety. But one of the most widely used is Life360, which was founded nearly 2 decades ago and has evolved into a network for families today. Today, we'll be talking with Mike Zeman, the Chief Marketing Officer of Life360. He'll talk about how the app is using marketing to break through the clutter and create brand trust for scores of anxious parents. He'll also talk about what's ahead for the brand this year. Now here's my conversation with Mike. Hi, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So I thought we could start by talking about what Life360 is and kind of how it's different from, say, the basic tracking app on an iPhone.
So Life360 is a family safety and connection app and company. So location sharing is very much at sort of the core of what we do. It's kind of how the company got started. But now we have a bunch more features for families to improve everyday family life. And that's really where we're going. We think it's blue ocean territory to be the app that families can use to just make things a lot easier for themselves.
Why do you think that the brand, the app, is filling a need in today's tech-obsessed world?
People like convenience and digital convenience, especially, right? So, for me as a parent to not have to constantly text my kids and ask where they are, or do they have their battery charged, or are they driving safely, and instead just quickly open an app and see on the map that they're safe, they're driving at reasonable speeds, their battery is charged, or they've made it to school, like they should have at this time is a real convenience and just adds a lot of peace of mind for families.
So yeah, that was my next question, kind of beyond tracking, which I know it for. What else can it do? I mean, it seems like it's kind of like this network or family network for each cluster.
The way we think about it is we're building this family super app. So over time, it will do lots of things. Right now, it allows you to see where your family members are. We just launched a pet product, so you can actually see with GPS technology, did Fido, get out and escape? And if so, you can help recover the pet that much more quickly. Our tile item trackers allow you to see your keys and wallet and luggage. If your luggage gets lost, you'll be able to see that on the map. And then we have a bunch of features like emergency dispatch if you happen to get in an accident, identity theft, and sort of helping you kind of navigate the travails of that. And really just a whole host of driving features and sort of what we call painkillers in case you ever do get in an accident to kind of help with recovering from that.
And can you communicate with people who are all in your network? Like, can you communicate to see if your son or daughter is not, the battery's not charged, to kind of give them a reminder and that kind of thing, like all in network?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can use what's called quick notes in the app, which are fun, short little sort of text, essentially, that you can send to your circle members, we call them. In fact, one we just launched recently was a 6-7 quick note, which actually skyrocketed to the top of quick notes.
I'm shocked.
Yes, lots of parents receiving 6-7 notes, asking what the hell that means, and teens and college kids sharing that with each other. But yeah, we don't replace text messaging, SMS, iMessage, or WhatsApp, but we add a sort of little wrinkle for your circle members within the app.
Kind of like a little fun element.
Yeah, little accent.
And I know the app can be free, but are there different membership models, and you also integrate advertising, or walk me through that?
Right. Yeah, so we have nearly 92 million free users. So one of the biggest apps actually out there. And we have paid subscription tiers. So we call it triple tiers. So you can get, silver, gold, or platinum with varying levels of product experience sort of built into that. And then, yes, ads is a newer dynamic for the company. Obviously, lots of users that are not being monetized historically, we want to monetize. And it's not just about pure monetization for the sake of it. It's how do we actually work with brands like Uber and Target and others to kind of bring value to the family members using the app.
Yeah, I saw Life360 is in the process of acquiring Nativo, the advertising tech company. How
Yeah.
will the app change following that deal?
Well, Nativo's got a rich history of building great ad experiences, premium ad experiences for their advertisers. And so you can imagine that they would bring that into Life360 as a flagship sort of app experience. But beyond that, they've got a wonderful publisher network, right? So imagine, folks being able to target families based on location behaviors, not only within the Life360 app, but across their great publisher network, including, Yahoo, CNN, and others.
Let's talk a little bit about your background. When did you join as CMO and where were you before?
I joined in January of 2024, so 2 years. And before that, I was in tech at Netflix, Google, and Square, so helping to scale digital businesses globally.
And you've had a lot of marketing under your tenure there. I mean, one of the most notable campaigns from last year, 2025, was I Think of You Dying, which I feel like any parent can relate to. I'm a
Yeah.
parent as well. Can you talk about how that campaign came together and why going so extreme was a direction that you and your team decided to take?
Yeah. Well, largely, I think everyone has what I call TikTok brain, which means our attention spans are very short, myself included. And so you really do have to break through. You have to make people feel something, or they're just going to pass you by, right? We call it playing at the polls, which means if something doesn't make somebody laugh or make them cry, I generally don't want to have investment in that thing. And so I Think of You Dying was one of the chapters of the Family Trip for Your Family campaign that we launched last year that is meant to do that. It's meant to sort of tap into that real human truth that parental minds do go to very dark places sometimes. It's fairly universal, but it's taboo. Nobody talks about it. And therefore, we thought, well, why don't we talk about it? Why don't we actually bring it to life in a pretty crazy way through animation to get people talking about the business, but also to land this fact, at the end that, oh, okay, Life360 allows me to just see where these folks are, give me that peace of mind, and sort of pull me out of some of those dark corners.
And what has feedback been like?
Exceptional. The reaction in terms of the commentary volume that we got in social, as well as the valence of that commentary, super positive. People really saw themselves in the expression. And so we saw just phenomenal engagement overall, and that permeated the business results as well.
What agencies worked on the spot, or was it done in-house?
We have a great creative team that helped guide a lot of the work, but we also work with Alto out of New York, who's been an exceptional partner and really pushing us, making us feel uncomfortable in all the right ways. And so it's been a great collaboration.
So I have two kids. One's a teen, one's almost a teen. Both are very much aware of Life 360. And I'm wondering how you're making the app relatable and kind of acceptable, not just for parents, but for kids, for some of these younger kids who are aware of it.
I like to think of us as a marketplace business, meaning while parents typically are the ones who purchase a subscription or sort of bring the product to the family, we need to make sure that kids, especially teenagers, are okay with it, and better yet, advocate for it, which increasingly we see. And teens are actually the catalyst for a lot of families getting Life360. And so part of that is a product decision framework to not build things in the product that would really turn off teenagers. There's a fine line between helping parents ensure that their kids are being safe versus tattling. And then from a marketing standpoint, we need to make sure that, we speak in their language. And for us, TikTok is the primary way we do that. We've got 1.6 million followers there, and, we're pretty irreverent. We make fun of ourselves a lot. We respond in sort of what we call a based fashion to a lot of comments where people are upset with us. And so I think we've got a really good, rich dialogue going with them there.
Let's take a quick break for this message from our sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Roundel. Start the new year with media plans built with Roundel, Target's retail media business. Roundel connects brands with 165 million plus Target guests through data-driven strategies and tailored partnerships that deliver measurable results. Whether you're elevating your brand, expanding reach, or driving growth, Roundel helps your message show up in moments of discovery and joy. Because at Roundel, joy is good for business. Learn more at roundel.com.
So, Life360 has received some criticism around data sharing and privacy. How do you handle such challenges, especially when it seems like different generations have different ideas about personal data sharing?
I think so two things. One is the company today is different than the company several years ago. We used to be a data broker in that business. We exited that several years ago. So making sure that we have a product sort of philosophy we can stand by in the way of data privacy and transparency is really important. And then we want to be extremely upfront with how we actually use data, not only for Life360 as a service, but with advertising partners as well. And so we've been very clear in our blog posts around how we use data. We also give people the right set of controls within the app to kind of choose for themselves. I also would say that we may not be for everyone. We certainly hope we are, but if folks are uncomfortable with the way that we use data, even after they opt out of the flavors that they really don't appreciate, I'm okay with people making that decision, but we think that there are hundreds of millions of people out there where the way that we approach data sharing is perfectly comfortable for them.
What will marketing look like for the brand in 2026? And what do you have planned?
Number one, really landing us is that family super app. To your point earlier, we were sort of known as a location sharing app. We want to be the people, pets, and things experience, for families so that they can see all of that together. You're going to see a big chapter of that Family Proof Your Family campaign in Q1. We'll actually be in the streaming Super Bowl with Peacock, which we're excited about. We're going to be at the Winter Olympics with NBCU. A lot more influencer and podcaster work around that campaign chapter. So excited about that. International expansion is a huge priority for the company. So really doubling down in markets outside of the US where we're seeing a lot of traction is going to be important. And then, of course, scaling our ads business. So the B2B marketing side is really important, making sure we become an iconic and must-buy brand for family advertisers.
And what about from a messaging standpoint? I mean, will you kind of continue with some of the messaging that you've had, or will you take a new direction?
I'm a huge believer that consistency matters, and a lot of the great marketing research out there from folks like System One really reinforces this. I do not want to whipsaw between platforms and territories and taglines. And so family proof your family will be the thing that we continue with. You'll see that in the Q1 campaign. And yeah, we're excited to continue to build equity in it.
I know that I Think of You Dying campaign used real animation and not AI. And I
Right.
was hoping you could talk a little bit about why that is and how you're thinking about implementing AI into your processes moving forward.
Yeah. I think right now AI, the highest leverage use case is sort of educational content development, right? So things like blog posts, SEO, AEO, GEO, whatever we're calling it today. That's a no-brainer to use AI to create that kind of content. Same thing with competitive and category research. We've announced that we're getting into the aging parents space. And so it's been a great tool for going very deep on our research around what's needed there. But it's not quite at the level yet as human creators in terms of really tapping into human emotion. And we saw, when we use real animators, the comments and the views were just off the charts in terms of people's appreciation kind of for the craft and the art. Does that mean we'll never use AI to create evocative content? No. I think about a good bar is show me when a short film wins an award, using AI, right? And I think that's a good sort of litmus test for when we feel like AI might be ready to produce the kind of, commercial type advertising work that we think is needed to really move the needle.
Right. When we're looking back on 2025, there were so many brands that really got in trouble for AI. I mean, the most recent was McDonald's not too long
Yeah.
ago. I'm sure you saw that with the AI spot, a lot of things there. So,
Yeah.
switching gears, let's talk more generally about the industry. What other marketers out there do you think are doing a good job? Who are you paying attention to? Who do you think had a good 2025 when it comes to what they were able to do?
Well, just because I watch it every year, I'll call out John Lewis in the UK. Nobody makes you cry like John Lewis. I look forward to that every year, and they're just so consistently good at that. So, that's one who really plays with the polls, right, and makes people cry consistently. I think Yeti's great. They are very evocative in their work. They feel very, very much like a participant in a community versus somebody communicating to a community. The recent work around Don't Get Them a Yeti, I think is fantastic and just really rich, right? It definitely stops my thumb in social. And then, of course, progressive, Dr. Rick, saving you from becoming your parents. Again, back to the love song, or I Think of You Dying work, brutally honest truths, right? Highly resonant. People can see themselves in a lot of that dialogue. So I think they do a great job.
That's so funny. Of course, Dr. Rick, that's a perfect one to call out. He's
Yeah,
the gift that keeps on giving for
it
them.
really is.
And as you're looking to the next 12 months, what are you prioritizing as a CMO when you think about not just the brand, but the industry overall and kind of navigating some of these challenges we've heard about? We have a piece in Ad Age coming out around what CMOs are worried about, like CMO CFO relationship, humanizing AI, all that stuff. What are you thinking about?
Well, I think as the financial market continues to, well, consumer sentiment in particular continues to get, depressed, there's always a tendency in the industry to sort of limit what you're doing to the bottom of the funnel, right? And so for me, it's really important to make sure that we continue to build brand. There's tons of research out there that shows that brands that continue to do sort of upper funnel demand creation during downturns continue the next 5 to 10 years to perform much better than those that don't. Luckily, we have a great CFO who's aligned to that and is very supportive of the work we do at the top of the funnel, which it's not always been the case for lots of CMOs, but I think that's going to be really, really interesting and important. I think the other one is just the declining trust in traditional media, right? Audiences are going down, but trust is going down across the board in traditional media. So how you think about landing your comms messages is less about getting them on network show A, right, or newspaper B, and more about how do you get podcasters talking about you? How do you get Mel Robbins or Joe Rogan organically to talk about you and really think about them as the target for a lot of the comms work versus the traditional sort of publisher industry?
How are you doing that? Like, how do you make sure that
Yeah,
you're getting those organic placements and also keeping a diverse mix, like you said, with, having a spot in the Olympics and all of that, and
yeah.
TikTok, like you said too.
Yeah. I think it's the same thing in terms of playing at the polls. So be provocative, touch third rails, do things that, for example, we talked very early about our support for getting phones out of schools, which is ironic because we're an app that requires, location sharing, but those kinds of things can get you talk value. We have an incredible data set that allows us to create really interesting stories with it. So we know where the worst drivers in America live, and so we can talk about that, right? And then get people talking about the data sets that we produce. So we link quite heavily into that. I'm not saying traditional media doesn't have value. We very much are multifaceted in where we sort of invest, from CTV and streaming into some linear and then popular podcasts, influencers, et cetera. So there are still eyeballs there, and our traditional target tends to be from suburban, exurban areas that tend to still watch a fair amount of TV. And so that's a place that we need to be from an eyeball standpoint.
Well, we're out of time, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much, Adrian.
That was Mike Zeman, Chief Marketing Officer of Life360, and I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast on your favorite player. We promise to keep it brief or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for tuning in.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.